Recording in progress.
Evening. Welcome to the July 15th, 2024 regularly scheduled work session. Tonight, there are two items on the agenda. Public comment is allowed that is germane to an agenda item. If you wish to speak, you are required to fill out a public comment card, and if you are speaking on behalf of an organization, you must fill out an affidavit that you have the authority of said organization. Please remember this is not a time to engage the mayor or members of the city council in conversation. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone stating your name and address for the record. Public comment will be allowed for a total of 10 minutes per agenda item and no more than 2 minutes per person. Once the item is called, no other public comment cards will be accepted. Will the city clerk please sound agenda item A?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. That first item is the priority projects update. It's going to include 3 updates for the Deerfield Implementation Plan, large lot zoning project in the active parks. Our city manager, Mr. Stephen Krokoff.
I've got nothing to add to that other than to introduce Bob Buscemi.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm glad we missed the storm. It looked really bad out there for a minute. I figured, uh-oh, I'm going to be drenched by the time I get in. Okay, so tonight I'm just going to give you a quick update on Deerfield Implementation Plan, which is actually going very well. What happened? Did I lose it? I see it. I don't know. Can you guys see it? Okay, there it goes. The RFP timeline, we started the process in around mid-April, and we had proposals due in May, around mid-May. We reviewed the proposals by the end of May, and we did do a final selection by the end of June, and then it walked into the first week of July in order to do contract negotiations and to get the agreement signed by everybody and get all the insurances and subs on. So that's where we are with that. That went very well. We had 3 proposals received from planning architectural firms, MKSK, which actually did some work for us on the Windward study with Alpharetta, that joint study. TSW, and they've also done a lot of work. They're working on the Arnold Mill plan for us right now. And they also did the Mayfield District proposal. And Cooper Carey, who's actually designed City Hall and the Public Safety Complex, as well as our wayfinding signage around Milton, especially in Crabapple area. And the selected consultant was Cooper Carey, as I guess you know, because last week council approved their agreement officially on July 8th. So thank you. Okay, so the consultant kickoff, we've already been conducting informal meetings with Cooper Carey's team, including their consultants, to review the framework of the project. We're coming up with a project management plan, communications plan, which again, a lot of our staff has already been working on it. So we gave them everything we have, and they're just going to embellish on it and add to it and kind of solidify it all. And then we'll come back and present it all to you all. And it was nice. Greg actually has been emailing me. He's in Europe right now, but he emailed me. He said he's so excited to work on the communications plan. He can't help himself. He has to jump in. He's sending that from Europe. So we got a committed bunch. He's really doing a great job with it. And I think we're going to have a really robust communications plan. Formal kickoff with the entire team is being set up. But right now, the real priority is GDOT's redesign and the restoration of what they've done. They've sort of given us some deadlines, which I'm going to go over soon and show you what that is. So I'm really pushing that way up to the top as a priority for us, because we want to sort of meet that criteria. But I want to make sure everybody knows that we're keeping developers, landowners, any interested parties actually that have been emailing us and have expressed interest up to date on our progress. Of course, we're going to have outreach and community meetings and subgroups and stakeholder group and things like that. But just to keep the interested people up to date, I've been doing all of that just to keep everybody in the loop. All right, so GDOT's coordination. First, we have two efforts with them. One is the decommissioning effort. At first, they came to us and said that there were 30 affected parcels that they had done work on. That's not all the parcels on the corridor, but they had done work on 30 of them and disturbed 30 of them. And then they came back and I said, look, we really want to put a flame under this and really get this thing expedited to make sure that we get these parcels restored. And they said, well, we really don't have any of the contact information from any of these people. It sounds really odd, but they don't have any contact information on any of the parcels along Highway 9. So staff went back and said, look, we'll try to help you. And actually with the help of the finance department, Karen, she really came through, and we really had several meetings and we worked it out, and we managed to get them the names, emails, and phone numbers of all the parcels of the 30 affected people. I've been reaching out to them and explaining to those owners what they're going to be receiving from GDOT, which is a letter saying, can we please have access to your property? What we agreed to is like resodding. They're going to sod, not seed. They're going to resod the areas that were affected. They'll do any fence repair. They'll remove any silt fencing that they had put in place, any debris that's there, and any equipment materials that are on site. So the debris would be like tree limbs and things like that. So we clean that up. And the only thing that they kind of pushed back on was they didn't want to do any tree planting, replanting, I should say, because they don't want to put trees in and take them out in 3 years. So we said, okay, but as long as you sod it, make it look clean. And most of the affected property owners said that they're in agreement with that, and they have been giving access permission to GDOT to go in there and do it. So we've been meeting with their upper staff and their field staff that's out there. So we'll get that going. GDOT's also resurveying the corridor, because a lot of the properties and the parcels have changed over the years. Did this like 5 years ago. And a lot of people have subdivided, moved parcels around, sold parcels. So they're going to resurvey everything and give us a brand new survey of the whole corridor. So that's the decommissioning. Then we move over to the redesigning efforts. This is sort of phase 2. And they've given me, and the city really, sort of a deadline at the end of July, because they're trying to move this along. And they said, well, we'd like to know what the city's asks are by the end of July. And I said, okay, end of July, early August, depending on making sure that I have time to sit with the council. But I've highlighted some of the things, and we can discuss if there's any interest in adding other items. It'd be reducing the speed to 35 miles an hour. And I know Steve has really brought this up many times, and he's hit the nail on the head with it. 35 miles an hour, the standards of what we're looking for, is much more in compliance with our needs. Once you go over 35, the rules change. You start getting up to that 45 mile an hour, which is where they are. And all of a sudden, you can't have trees in the medians, or extremely limited plantings in the medians, and the walls have to be set back much further for crash detection and things like that. So we really wanted them to do the 35, and that's what our big ask is. And also not just to lower the speed, but to design the road. So when you design the road, you might be able to actually reduce the width of the lanes by, say, a foot. So the lanes aren't as wide. So you're taking less property. The walls aren't pushed back as far. They're pushed forward. We're allowed to have the landscaping. And if there's any dips in the road, with 45, they'd have to come in and fill those dips up to kind of make the road much more level. Okay. And when you do that, you're going to have, associated extra grading or retaining walls in order to achieve that. So if we can keep it at 35 and actually design it to 35, I think that's where we need to be. So 35 is the biggest ask. A lot of things fall into place after 35. But redesign the road profiles, incorporate landscaping both into the right-of-way and into the private property that abuts it. And a lot of those landowners have said that they'd be willing not only to incorporate landscaping, they'd be willing to do linear parks, they'd be willing to move sidewalks onto their property. So that really helps. Expand medians. If the medium is, too narrow for trees, and I know the council expressed that they wanted trees in there, then we'll have to look at it. Maybe if we make the lanes narrower, we can make the median a little bit wider. I also talked about crosswalks, because right now we don't have really strong crosswalks. The way they design it's really more for the vehicular traffic and not really for the pedestrian. So we don't have like areas of refuge, like if you're crossing a 4-lane road, if you get stuck in the middle, what happens? Where do you go? So, we do want to look at these things and come up with much more residential style criteria that's in there. And then I know that the mayor has expressed some interest in Bethany Bend intersection to becoming a priority area. I think that was genius. I mean, it is. The mayor will explain it's one of
Not
the
a
areas
genius,
we
but
have. No, I thought it was.
that on the record, okay?
Well, yeah, we'll put that on the note. Let's make sure. Are we being taped? Well, because we do have the highest incident of accidents and problems at that intersection. And if we're going to redesign everything, instead of waiting till the end, I think that was a great idea to say, hey, let's make that a priority area and let's get that intersection done. We did reserve right away when we did the Pike Nursery and things. So all of that's there already, and there's not much more that we need to do. And I think that would really help the city out, just from the problems we've been having there. And we are preparing a list of these items, and then we're going to present them to GDOT. And whether we do that in a formal letter from the city or just a list and transmit a list, that I'm weighing those options. I'll talk to Steve about how he wants to actually formally present this information to GDOT, because the one thing with GDOT is I want to make sure we memorialize everything. There are homeowners that said that there were promises made in the past and then things aren't being fulfilled. So I want to make sure we don't step into that twice. Everything will be in writing, formalized, and they'll accept it. And then this way we have a paper trail on everything we do with them. So if there's any questions or if you have additional comments on things that you were looking for.
Yep. Councilman Jacobus?
Yeah, a couple. Do you have a timeline on when we can tell people when they'll start the work on the resodding and the cleanup and all that? I mean, do they expect to do it in August or September? I mean, what's the?
They've expressed that they're looking to do it as quickly as possible. And then when he came back and told me he didn't have the contact information from any of those people to even get access, that's why we engaged and started helping them. Now that we've given them that, hopefully they'll be able to get the responses from those landowners back quickly. And then they said that they'll go in there and do it. They're looking to wind down that project and get the contractor off the job. But I don't have a set date until we receive back everything from the landowner saying, yes, you have that permission. That's why I've been reaching out to the landowner saying, listen, this is coming. Don't be afraid. This is what it's going to be. And a lot of them have been writing emails back to GDOT saying, listen, we spoke with Bob. These are the things that you said you're going to do. You're going to resod, not seed. You're going to fix the fence. If there's like little piers that were up, stone piers, they said, no, we're not going to do the piers. We're not going to do the tree replanting. Because these are the kinds of questions I've been getting. So people, I've been writing back to them saying, listen, we have our legal involved. We are hiring our attorneys and stuff, but Bob has stated that these are the things you're going to do. If we allow you to have access, then we'll give you that permission.
And on the redesign stuff, there's the issue of putting a traffic light at the entrance to Crooked Creek was on the table for a while. The fact that we're going to wait 3 years and get increased traffic flow by the time this thing gets done, can we put that on the list to at least discuss with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't mind that, because one of the options would be to do a PTV kind of a pathway on one side of the road and not both. So that would help out some of those residences that were upset about having such wide sidewalks. We would be able to narrow. So if we did a red light there, like an actual signal, people might be able to take the PTV, cross over, and then come down.
Yeah, it's already difficult to make a left out of there as it is. 3 years from now.
We'll give it a shot. I'll double check with Sarah to
And
see
Bob,
what
they
happens. I
said,
know they do it on they do it on
Forsyth
traffic
County
counts,
gonna
but
continue. Like Forsyth County is going to have a 4-lane highway before we even start.
Yeah, they'll be
So it's
on.
going to make it even that much worse. If you have a 4-lane highway going into a 2-lane highway right in front of Crooked Creek, I can see that being a big problem.
right,
for
because
them.
they'll have it built
Yeah.
before us, yes, and then they'll have to. It's a good point.
Is their plan to restart this project in 3 years? That's the time frame?
Well, all right, so they're saying that they'd have to redo all the land acquisition process, and that would take 3 years. Now, we're coming back saying we want to redesign this to Miltonize it. And I know they're going to come back and say, well, that's going to slow things down a little bit, and we're going to have to work on that. So when we meet with them, which we will be doing at the end of the month, we'll get a firmer commitment on what that will take. Because we won't be doing a full redesign, but we do want to redesign some of these elements to get these things in.
Don't they take any sort of accountability for the fact that this was their problem they created and that maybe they need to put things on a dual track? You know, the redesign and purchasing the right-of-ways at the same time. I mean, it seems to me that 3 years is plenty of time to get all that done,
Yeah.
especially when you're the ones responsible for creating this problem. I mean, somebody didn't manage the situation.
I
Somebody
agree.
looked the other way. We don't
But
really
if we
talk
re-
about that very much, but it's their issue.
I agree.
We're going to be meeting with the commissioner and some state representatives later in the month, and we'll nail down all of these gaps and question marks.
Thank you.
Make sure that they
And
understand.
dates.
I want you to add one more thing on the list, maybe. I know we set aside quite a bit of money to do the stone walls. You know, Alfred has that stamp stuff, and I think we set aside some money to do some real walls. It might be one of those things that maybe mention at GDOT that this really impact our economic development in the area and has offset probably some money. And so that would be something I think they should probably bring to the table, some of their dollars.
And,
Yeah.
and Mayor, if we redesign it and we narrow the roads a little bit and we reduce some of the sidewalk widths, and then they won't have to acquire as much property and they won't have to do as much grading. I think in the end, when we met with the consultants today and we had this big discussion, the consultant turned around and said, wow, you're actually going to be bringing a lot of savings to GDOT as part of your proposal. So it's not like we're going in asking them to do more. All our asks are really reducing their overall construction costs. So I think we have to remember that.
Maybe they can repurpose some of those costs.
Yeah, like landscaping would be
Yep.
nice. The walls would be nice.
Well, the holdup for them for a couple of years is legal.
Yeah.
So they just need to,
But you would
they
think
need to
there was
hire
a lot
other
of things they could do at the
resources.
same
to get
time.
that. Ken, get on that.
On it.
Because they don't have the staff, they just need to outsource it and let's move it on.
That's what they should do, but
That's what needs to happen.
yeah.
Looking at all these people, we'll see who.
Any more questions about Deerfield? You good? All right. So we'll go on to the large lots. Any comment on Deerfield? No?
Not on Deerfield,
Okay.
Mayor. Mm-mm.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Shubha Jaman, Principal Planner at the city, and I'm here to talk about ag incentives for large lots. The project that originated from Complan 2040 and also aligns very well with the strategic plan. Today, I'm actually looking for your feedback on a couple of ideas, and they're coming up in just a few minutes. Just a little recap. In June work session, we discussed that the goal of this project is to assist the current property owners in maintaining the agricultural lifestyle. Since we have previously established incentives to help create new large lots, we are now focused on the existing large lots. On the project plan, we are on the schedule. We started with the initial engagement of a focus group of Milton residents, and we are now moving through some of this list of suggestions that came out of this focus group engagement. And and my goal today is to present you some of the ideas that came out. And once I get your feedback, I can prepare them for the third phase, which is text amendment. If you like those suggestions, okay. So As I said, in last few months, I was engaging the focus group in one-on-one interview. This is a group that we put together of Milton residents of various background, and we exchanged ideas during this interview process. And I'm pleased to report to you that there is a good amount of support for these ideas that I'm going to present today. So here we go. In order to support the agricultural or equestrian lifestyle, accessory buildings are kind of important. And in Milton, on AG1 zoned property, generally we see these three types of accessory structures. Barn, which is technically a building housing animal, we allow it in the front yard. Then there is a accessory structure such as shed or greenhouse that we do not allow in the front yard. And guest houses we also don't allow in the front yard. So, and I'm actually having this diagram just to kind of exhibit, in each property we have a front, side, and rear setbacks. It more often than you think, it happens that these kind of accessory buildings are already present on a property and without any issue. And they usually become an issue when a property owner applies for a new permit, and then the staff finds out that these buildings are in a wrong location. And to bring the property in compliance, they have to get a variance and go to BZA. And as you can see, especially the large properties are not really rectangular. And this is just one example I'm showing here on the slide. This is a same group of properties. I'm just showing a site plan, GIS map, and aerial view of these properties. And as you can see, they are polygon. So the front yard, side yard, rear yard kind of becomes more of a technical issue. And so here is one of the ideas that the incentive for the lots larger than 5 acres, we could consider allowing the accessory buildings in the front yard, considering guest houses in the front yard. Now, we acknowledge that we do need to strengthen architecture code for these accessory buildings. And we believe that if we do so, we will definitely improve the rural view shed, will moderate the number of variances, and we will encourage local entrepreneurship. So I'm looking for your feedback. What do you think? Should we move forward with this idea? We can refine it for the text amendment.
When you say you want to strengthen the architectural code for the accessory buildings, give me some ideas of what you're talking about, what you would change.
Okay, so we have a rural Milton overlay district, and to be honest, we have just guidelines for the residential buildings. We don't really require certain type of roof, certain type of. So we're trying to we usually just. It's been kind of established, so we are able to talk the applicants into following certain style of architecture. We do prefer 3 types of architecture under rural Milton overlay district. But other than that, the language in the code doesn't say this shall be this way, shall be that way. So we would rather prefer to have a little bit of stricter language. That way, if somebody comes in and we require architectural review, we can at least have some leverage to say that, no, the code says you need to have this kind of architecture or this kind of roof style. Or
Doesn't that take away from what we're trying to do, though? I guess my concern is the reason we're trying to do these large lot incentives is so that they don't feel like there's a lot of financial burdens put on them. But yet we're going to come back with a lot of regulations that they're going to have to pay to do. So it kind of, you give with one hand, but you're taking it away with the other.
Exactly. We have to balance that because we are selective about the style of architecture. And so we're giving away something, but we really want to have a quality buildings out there.
The regulation is only if it's in front of the house.
Yeah,
So that's why
That's
it
what
would
I would
be-
think.
Like the look of it would be
Yeah,
more
I get that.
regulated
I'm
if
ju-
it's
I'm
in the
just
front.
concerned about how
Right, but
tight
it-
you make it.
But to your point, I think that people should be able to bring in what they prefer, rather than us give them our preconceived notions of what we think it should be, because
I
we
mean,
don't
it's-
know the style of the house that they're going to build or that they live in. So I think that we should take, maybe we're saying the same thing, but I think we should take what they would like to do into consideration without giving them a list of, don't come in unless it's this.
Well, Shuba, are you talking about are we going to do architectural control on the accessory structures, or also you want to tighten it up on the primary residence also if they come in for a new construction?
No, I'm not talking right now about primary residences. I'm
accessory.
just talking about accessory buildings because once we start allowing them in the front, we do want to control what goes in there. So
This is no different than when a variance comes in front of DRB and it requires a variance and it's a residential building. DRB will put their fingerprints all over
Yeah.
that building.
But I think people should be able to come in and show what is preferred.
What she's trying to do is say, we want to put something in we want to put something in code and text, whatever, to minimize the need for them to have to come in and do that.
I get what
Trying
you're
to streamline the
saying.
process in order to allow them to do that, streamline it.
I just don't want to see us burden so much with costs that we take away from what we're.
Yeah, I don't think she's saying it's going to cost anybody any more money. She's just
Oh, yeah,
saying,
if you start putting guidelines in it, then all of a sudden, well, you have to do this and you have to do that. So now they've got to spend maybe money. That's where my concern is.
It's a slippery slope. I mean,
but it's also something they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do anyway.
No, I get that part of it, you know.
This is only for 5 acres or more.
Is it
that
yes,
right?
five or
this is
three?
bigger, only for the bigger lots. And they will
5
still
acres.
have to do certain things to get a permit. It's not like they just get a permit by showing the picture to us. They have to do
So
the,
if you're under 5 acres, no
No.
accessory structure up front. But if
Yeah.
you're over 5 acres, you can do an accessory structure up front, but it might have to look like X, Y, and Z. Is that correct?
yeah.
Fair enough?
I mean, we'll just come up with
I
some
got it.
regulations for that.
So it is giving an incentive for the 5 acres or more. It has nothing
Yes.
to, okay.
And this is just an opportunity to exchange, to get
Yeah,
some
that's good.
feedback. Obviously, we can take what we're getting from you tonight, mold it a little bit more based on what we're hearing and bring something back to y'all. This is
I
just
would-
our first.
Yeah, I would say, given some of the stuff that we saw in DRB, to limit what they're able to do while you're giving them the ability to do something is smart. We had plenty of stuff come in front of DRB that people were not happy about the way it was done.
Well, I think barns are particularly problematic because we're talking about a quantity of animals. And you can only have so many animals on a small property. So we had a meeting on this and, you know, we've talked about this sort of ad nauseum. Is there any guideline on that at this point?
No.
So,
Okay.
but we do allow barns already in the front yard, so
Right.
that's not.
But I
an
think
issue.
size of a barn then
Yes,
helps with
that's,
that. And I
can
think
be
it's-
bigger.
Absolutely. If you're 5 acres and under, and actually I would say a little bit larger than that, then, and you're going to house a certain number of hooved animals, manure removal is absolutely mandatory because that's not fair to neighbors. If you only have a 100-foot setback from property lines, you know, the manure never goes in front of the barn. It's never going to go in front of the house. It's going to go behind the barn, closest to the property line. So it's things like that that we need to factor into this.
Yes, we can always say that not this kind of use in excess,
Yeah.
like the shed only for storage, but not for manure. We can definitely mention
Yeah,
in the
that
code.
kind of thing needs to
Yeah.
be worked in.
Pretty big incentive to include an accessory structure in your front of your property. If I'm buying a 4-acre piece of land and I can't put an accessory structure up front, compared to buying a 5-acre piece of land that I have the option to, that's actually that is a pretty big incentive.
Great, thank you. All right, so the second opportunity relates to accessory use. And let me clarify, accessory use is different from accessory structure. Accessory use is any use that is subordinate to the primary use, which is in Milton, it's usually residential. And riding areas are considered accessory use in Milton, and they are allowed by right if they are open riding areas. But if you need a covered riding area or lighted riding area or covered and lighted riding area, no matter what size of property you have to get a use permit. So here's an incentive for you to consider that, if a property is bigger than 10 acres, maybe we can allow them to have a covered arena by right, lighted arena by right, or if it is more than 15 acres, we can allow covered and lighted arena by right. Again, we think that we can put some language in the regulations to limit the capacity of the arena, the square footage or whatever. We can do some more research if you like this idea. We think the MEC would be great help to do some courtesy review on this kind of permits, and the benefits are like, it will really improve the rural character of the Milton. It will support the equestrian committee, and again, it will encourage the local entrepreneurship. So I'm looking for your feedback.
I think the lights is the one that's kind of, I don't think that should be a by right thing.
Okay.
But I mean,
Well-
that's just my first
Well, wait a
stab at
second,
it.
with the wings and the directional lights, it's, I think it needs to be on a,
Would you want like the equestrian committee take a stab at it first, maybe?
yeah,
or-
I don't really have a problem that's not by right. I mean, I think it depends on the technology that's put in.
How about
So
the
I
location?
think that it just, it really needs to be reviewed.
We can do a little more research on
Is
that.
there any restriction on the location of it?
Oh, yeah.
So right now, we just have setbacks. There is no restriction on front yard, but they have to comply with the setbacks on the
What's the
property.
setbacks on those?
Just the front 60, rear 50,
really?
and
So they could put a riding area, a lighted riding area in the front of their property, next to the road.
yeah.
Shuba, I understand.
I mean, obviously, we could change that if we come up with more regulation. If you don't like that idea of covered arena, we could say that you can have it by right, but only in the back.
So
know, a lot of
opportunity one seems to make sense, and accessory structures are a big deal, and people request that often. How often do we have someone requesting arenas, covered arenas, lighted covered arenas?
Rarely, but we had a case just last year. It was more than 10 acres, but they had to go through use permit, and there was a lot of back and forth. if I
Exactly.
remember. So, if it was by right, I think we would have had less commotion, I guess.
You just want-
But it was highly contentious. That issue was.
Yeah,
And we've only had
There
one.
were other issues, yeah.
There were, but I'm just saying that if it's rare and when it does happen, it's worthy of a conversation, then I don't know if it's something that we give by right.
Obviously, we don't allow them in a buffer or anything like that. I mean, those kind of setbacks also apply. It's not like we just let them have it anywhere. Most of the time, the site dictates, or the natural features on the site dictates where the arena will go.
What were the issues on the one last year?
Hydrology.
Has the equestrian committee, have they looked at this yet?
Not from the rain collection.
No.
Okay.
Coming from the back.
Might-
of the
I mean,
house
just
there,
because-
right?
I might want them to take a
Okay,
first
sure.
stab
We
at
can-
it first,
we
because I can,
Definitely check with them.
okay.
Maybe there's something in here,
I think there might be something, but I don't know if,
and that's a great idea. Maybe we could bring it back, sit down with the equestrian committee and get their thoughts back on it. Maybe if they do think it's a good idea, they may have some other ideas of how it might be as least impactful as possible on neighboring homes.
Do we have any other barns that have come to us to apply or to consider a covered structure, a covered arena?
Not this year, no.
Not this year. Okay.
And
Reason.
we are looking into exploring low-cost, high-impact alternatives to the best management practices, to stormwater management, and we're doing this with city engineer who is a part of Public Works Department. And this is, again, people have asked us to look into this more and more. So we're just trying to come, it's more likely we come up with a guidance than any kind of requirements. It will be more of a suggestions or guidance. I don't think we can reduce the BMPs, but some help. So maybe next time I will be joined by the city engineer to explain a little more. So that's it. Thank you. Any other question, comments?
Well, I have a comment. One, I think the theme of your presentation is that we're open-minded and we're willing to take things and look at it so that we can preserve as much land here as possible. And so I commend you all for getting this far. And there are things, I mean, no two properties are the same and no two wants or asks are the same. So it is going to be case by case, and any way that we can help as you sort through it, and maybe be better connected with our committee members on stuff. If it comes up that it's prickly, it'd be good to know, because we want to all pitch in and do what we can on this.
Okay, great.
Anything else for Shuba on large lots? No? Any comment on large lots? No?
There are
Okay.
none, sir.
Thank you very much, Shuba.
Yeah,
Go
great
to-
ideas. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. We'll go to active parks.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have a whole lot, but I'm here to provide a brief update on where we are with the active park project, and happy to answer any questions you have. Happy to report that staff is actively moving forward with the project. We're still in land acquisition phase for the Deerfield property. The due diligence does wrap up this Sunday on July 21st, and we are working with legal to look at securing a closing date there. In the meantime, Sarah Leaders and I are working congruently on an RFP for the park's final design. The legal ad will be going out next week, and the bid will be released on July 25th, and proposals will be due on August 22nd. After the evaluation period and approval of the contract by council, we expect the consultant to start design sometime in September. And that's really all I've got right now. Any questions? Nice, quick one.
Nice to see you.
Tom.
What's that?
Councilman Jacobus?
Yeah, there's some question about whether we do a playground, whether we do pickleball, whether we do tennis courts, that type of thing. Is there a way that we can get some community feedback from people that would use that, so we make the best decision? I mean, personally, I would think a great playground, we don't have one in the city, would look great there, but I don't know whether that's what the citizens want. But I'd like to see us get some feedback before we get them too far down the road on the design. And I don't know if we have a way of doing that.
I'm assuming that's going to be
Certainly,
part,
we could do that as part of the design and the initial start.
I think the
of
scope of
getting
work, that would
getting-
be the
yes, yes.
initial phase. I would at
Right.
least hope so. Would be.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we don't miss that, and okay.
Absolutely.
Public comment on this one?
We do, Mayor.
Okay.
I would like to invite Miss Christy Hayes to the podium.
Christy Hayes, 13585 Hopewell Road. I'm here tonight to implore the council not to purchase the Arnold Mill property for undisclosed, undetermined use by Parks and Recreation. As the contract reads, the city can terminate with or without cause before the end of due diligence on July 17th and receive $10,000 in earnest money back without any penalty, and this is exactly what the city should do. As all of you know, I live across the street from the original land purchased for an athletic complex along Hopewell Road. The city proceeded with the $3.5 million purchase of the Bates Farm and shockingly tacked on another $1.4 million for the Hudson property, that portion without an appraisal, when all indications screamed that the property, littered with floodplain and wetlands, was not appropriate for housing any type of athletic fields. Today, that land sits abandoned with 3 houses, 2 barns, and a school building that are not monitored, and the grass has been cut maybe twice since closing over a year ago. The properties sit unkempt and inviting only to those who wish to squat undetected, while the city contemplates purchasing yet another 10 acres of land without any planned usage. This in addition to the 12 acres we co-own within the city of Alpharetta that our Parks and Rec director admitted he doesn't know why the property was purchased and what the city plans to do with it. All of this while we are actively appealing a $35 million wrongful death judgment and defending a multi-million-dollar suit from Jim and Daryl Rosenberger. The defense of these lawsuits are accruing quite a hefty legal bill by the citizens of Milton. It's time for this council to stop rubber stamping recommendations by city staff and start doing your job to safeguard and do oversight of the city's finances. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Will you please call item B?
Mayor, item B is the fiscal year 2025 budget preparation, discussion, and feedback. Our Deputy City Manager, Ms. Bernadette Harville.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight is our third budget process input meeting in preparation for the presentation of the 2025 fiscal year budget. In this meeting, we will review the objectives of the input meetings. We will review what has been discussed to date, as well as the timeline of which topics will be covered in the upcoming council meetings throughout the rest of July and August, as well as the budget hearings scheduled for September. I will share the summary of the new initiative requests for the operating and capital, and then turn it over to our department heads, who will each present the supporting backup for their requests and finally gather any additional feedback from council at the end of the meeting. Once again, each meeting will include this slide, which recaps the objectives of the whole meeting process we have for the feedback. Last year, we started this new approach, which provides staff time to receive nuanced feedback from council to ensure that the proposed budget aligns with the council's plans as well as, or the city's plans as well as the council's vision. On June 10th, we discussed our capital improvement plan at a high level, as well as more specific details related to the new athletic complex and how to fund that build out. The McConnell-Chadwick House and next steps to accomplish during due diligence. We will have additional information on this item included in tonight's presentation as well. And we also discussed the Mayfield Farm Park and conversations that will be had with the city of Alpharetta related to that property. Last week, we went over the 5-year revenue forecast and discussed the upcoming millage rate hearings for the advertisement required for those meetings. And just a reminder that the property tax forecast included in that presentation, as well as the advertisements for the upcoming millage rate hearings, are based on the current maintenance and operating millage rate of 4.389 mils. Staff is prepared to discuss reduced millage rate options at the millage rate public hearings, so this has not been adopted by council, but it's just a starting point for our feedback for the budget conversations. At next week's meeting, we will also recap the 5-year forecast related to expenditures and discuss the 7-year CIP in more detail, providing council an opportunity to provide input on those expenditures as we head into those millage rate hearings. We will hold the first 2 millage rate hearings on August 5th, with one at 9 a.m. and the second at 6 p.m. And the third and final hearing, as well as the adoption of the 2024 tax year millage rate, will come at the special called meeting immediately following the budget workshop on August 12th. That budget workshop will bring together all the feedback received during these input meetings, as we've been holding, and provide council a draft of the fiscal year 2025 budget in its entirety. In September, we will have our 2 public hearings related to the proposed budget and adoption of our fiscal year 2025 budget on September 16th. Before you is a summary of the maintenance and operating initiatives that staff will expound upon in just a moment. Please note all position requests in the summary include salary and benefits, as well as equipment, training, and other related operating costs. Capital costs related to things such as vehicles are on the separate capital initiative summary that we'll go over in just a moment. The staffing for Fire Station 45 and the Parks Manager position have been included in the 5-year forecast for the past few years, as these major facilities have been contemplated in the CIP for some time. Both requests include funding for hiring starting in July 2025, and the subsequent operating impacts include consideration for a full year of staffing for those positions. The forecasted operating impacts for fiscal year 26 through 29 also include salary and benefit adjustments in the amount of 4.5%. But this does not guarantee any such market adjustment considerations and is just a placeholder for budgeting purposes based on recent trends in the market. Human Resources is currently conducting a compensation and classification study that will better inform our forecast for salaries and benefits and will be presented later in the process when data is available. Moving on to the capital initiatives, we have the vehicles needed for the police and parks requests, as well as 2 projects anticipated to impact the fiscal year 2025 budget, and one that police will present that will have funding impacts for the fiscal year 26 and 27 if approved by council, and will be included in the long-term CIP plan. Now we will have each department head come up and present their requests and any pertinent information that pertains to them. starting with our city clerk.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you my M&O initiatives for 2025, which is to request a part-time record clerk for the City Clerk's Department, who will be dedicated to the City Clerk's Department. This request aligns with our strategic priority sustainability goal to cultivate a diverse, engaged, and healthy workforce dedicated to service and excellence. As a quick reminder, the City of Milton manages all of our open records requests through our Just FOIA portal. Just FOIA meaning the Freedom of Information Act. When a requester submits an open records request, they're able to do so by choosing 3 different categories. The first category will be a public safety. This request is usually anything that's related to police and fire. These requests are usually also handled by a dedicated team of record clerks at the Public Safety Complex. The City Clerk's Department does certainly assist with those open records when we're asked to and needed to. The second category that people can submit an open records request is through community development. And community development will handle such related inquiries as a site plan, surveys, house building plans, etc. We have key personnel in community development that the city clerk's office will communicate with and coordinate with to fulfill those records requests. Then the third is the biggest one as far as for me, but police and fire, no, are the big numbers as far as open records requests. But the city clerk's department for the third category handles all of the general open records requests. So I want you to get in that mindset with me because I wanted to share with you all that we have seen a significant increase in the general open records request from last year. And additionally, with that increase, we've also seen the complexity of those open records increase, which will obviously increase our production time, redaction, compilation, document retrieval, etc. So I wanted to provide you with some year-to-date numbers so you could have some comparisons. The total number of general open records processed year-to-date last year, so January 1 through December 31, 2023, for general open records was 480 general open records requests. I ran the numbers, and the total number of general open records requests that have been processed so far year-to-date, just as from January 1 till today, is 382. So we're 98 general open records requests shy of meeting last year's year-to-date numbers. Therefore, in order to handle the increase in the volume of the open records request, and while to ensure the day-to-day operations of the City Clerk's Department is not compromised, a part-time records clerk is being requested to provide the Clerk's Department with more manpower. If we see that the open records should slow, please don't think that this part-time open records clerk would sit idle. We would, just like we have experienced increases with the open records, we've also experienced increases with the administrative task that also goes along with the day-to-day operations. So that person will be put to good use in helping with some of the alternate increased tasks that we also have. Their priority will obviously be to assist with the with the open records for general. So I welcome your feedback, your consideration, and any questions.
How long does it actually take to do one open records request, the average one?
That's a good question. And Ken can certainly help me with this. So obviously we want to make sure that we comply. That's one of our biggest goals, regardless of what department a person who does open records, our biggest goal is to make sure that we maintain and ensure transparency and compliance with the Georgia Opens Records Act. So the sunshine laws obviously require that we have to respond within 3 days. Now, that response might mean that we need to let you know that more time is needed because while records might exist, they might not yet be available. Or we have something available that we can obviously produce in that 3-day turnaround. But sometimes these open records could last weeks.
right? Councilmember Jacobus, and I completely agree with Tammy's comments. There's no one size answer to that. It just depends on the scope and breadth of the Open Records Act request itself. Some of them are fairly easy. I want to see a copy of the minutes. I want to see a particular plat. I want to see a particular, those are fairly straightforward. And in fact, even though we have 3 days, many times Milton won't take 3 days. We'll go ahead and just kick it out. When it gets complicated is when you start seeing requests that go for queries involving electronic communications, particularly. Those are probably the most vexing, just because they involve thousands and thousands and thousands of records, not because thousands are responsive, but just because the technology produces a lot of false positives. So we typically cast a net to find them, and then staff have to cull through a lot of documents, and that's where it becomes very time consuming. So the short answer is, Tammy's right. There is a requirement for a 3-day response of some kind. Either it's to produce or provide a timetable for response, a further response. But there's really no answer to your question, how long it takes. Fair question.
And Steve, I know sometimes we use Ken's office sometimes, I guess, when there's a multiple open records coming at the same time. Would this alleviate having to pay Ken's office to do some of these open records sometimes?
It should.
Okay.
There are still some that are quite complex that we'll still always rely on Ken's office for, but it could certainly help in us meeting our timelines.
Curious as how you got the payment number, the salary number.
For the part-time?
Yeah.
I did some comparison to other neighboring cities of what may potentially a part-time would be and came up with that.
But we have some flexibility if that's a little low.
We do. We'll put it into our classification system and determine where they need to land.
Thank you.
Any questions for Tammy? Okay. Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have our Finance Director, Karen Ellis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first position that the Finance Department is requesting for fiscal year '25 is a finance analyst. Based on the significant increase in workload of the accounts payable and purchasing areas over the past 3 years, the Finance Department requests an increased headcount from 1 part-time accounts payable specialist to 1 full-time finance analyst to adequately support the growing workload within the Finance Department. The city's finance department currently consists of 5 FTEs and 2 PTEs, which is part-time. And since fiscal year '21, there has been an increase of only half of an FTE. In short 5 years, the city has increased its capital projects. It's issued 2 new bonds. It's added new software to bring more purchase orders, invoices, and new software to accommodate increased workloads. We've added land, vehicles, equipment, all which brings more purchase orders, more invoices, more payments. Currently, the workload in accounts payable has increased exponentially, with the number of invoices increasing by over 17% just over the past 2 years. This increased position will allow adequate time for entering accurate data into the system, fewer mistakes during the year and for audit season, and additional time to support other areas in the department that need attention. The processing of accounts payable also entails other job responsibilities, which are currently being carried out by higher paid positions, allowing them less time and attention to their higher level responsibilities. If this position were increased to a full-time, other administrative duties handled by these key personnel could be transferred to this position, allowing those key personnel to expand their responsibilities and provide a better succession plan for the department. Currently, this position is supported by the purchasing department, which is also approaching maximum capacity. The purchasing department has consisted since inception of only 1 FTE, while procurement activity has significantly increased since the city's inception. With the addition of T-Splosh 2 and other key capital projects, as well as city growth, the purchasing activity has increased an average of 15% per year since '21 and over 297% since 2011. Transitioning this position to full-time would also allow for support of the purchasing department interchangeably and less stress on an already shorthanded area. In summary, increasing this position to an FTE would align to the city's strategic plan by cultivating a diverse, engaged, and healthy workforce dedicated to service and excellence. It would provide continuous development of all the finance staff so that the skills and competencies are strengthened and work quality increases. If you have any questions on that position, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Karen on that?
Thank you. My next position is a payroll and benefits analyst. For fiscal year, oops, thank you. Thank you. I got a third arm. For fiscal year 25, the Finance Department requests a payroll and benefits analyst, which is a full-time position, to provide a dedicated staff member overseeing timesheets and payroll processing within the Finance Department. Currently, these tasks have been divided amongst multiple staff members in other roles and other departments, causing a little bit of disconnection and additional efforts to maintain efficiency and accuracy. Most importantly, this position will also concentrate solely on the implementation of the city's new HRIS software, which is a Human Resources Information System for payroll and benefits, ensuring accurate setup and future success in its use by all city staff. Having this dedicated position perform the payroll and benefits tasks will reduce errors, streamline the processing of benefit changes, and provide sufficient time for checks and balances. The payroll and benefits analyst will focus on payroll on a daily basis to focus on effectiveness and efficiency. With the addition of this dedicated position, the department can provide more thorough review of the timesheets and proper use of pay codes, better communications with our department heads on timesheet concerns, and more timely and accurate reconciliation of HR invoices, and also mitigation of any errors associated with payroll and benefits. Both the finance and HR directors, as well as both deputy city managers, have exhausted several options, including outsourcing this payroll function. But due to the city's unique incentive programs and pay codes, it was determined that this function is best suited by an in-house dedicated position. Additionally, this position aligns to the city's strategic plan by cultivating a diverse, engaged, and healthy workforce dedicated to service and excellence. It provides continuous development of all finance staff so that skills and competencies are strengthened and work quality increases. The city becomes a learning organization with the ability to attract and retain a first-rate workforce that is closely reflective of the community's diversity and is prepared to lead into the future. If you have any questions on this position, I'll be glad to answer them as well.
Any questions for Karen on this one?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Karen.
Next, we have our IT Director, Ashley Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to review our M&O initiative for our Information Services Department for the application administrative position. Currently, right now, the IT department manages 8 major enterprise applications. Within the next year, or actually in this current year from 2024 to 2025, we will be upgrading 3 of these 8 applications, implementing 2 new major enterprise applications within the city, as well as we're projecting in 2025 to 2026, there will be 2 more enterprise applications that will be implemented as well. Those will be upgrade of a major ComDev solution and then possibly another application that we have within the city. From the IT department strategic planning process that we had and the SWOT analysis was done, it was noted that there's a need for more dedicated application management, which seems to be vital to the IS operations within the city. So what we're looking at is having the applications administrator position that would essentially be centralizing and streamlining all of our support efforts for application management within the city. They will also provide specialized expertise and focused attention on maintaining our vital systems. This person would pretty much be the one that all the major applications that we use, even minor applications, they would be responsible for keeping track of upgrades, installations, training for staff, everything now. Right now, we do a round robin kind of thing between myself and the IT manager and manage best effort as we can. This role would also be responsible for overseeing the life cycle of each application, deployments of updates, and troubleshooting and ensure consistent performance and minimizing downtime across all applications. Currently, we kind of relying on departments to let us know when things come out from vendors. This will help us kind of take some of the pressure off of the departments and leave it more on the IT department to help spearhead the path forward on all of our major applications. On top of that, we are expecting 2 major benefits from this new position. One, a more focused support on applications. This will give us a dedicated IS staff member that can be the primary support and knowledge base for everything that we have. This will allow for faster response times and resolution times by the IS department. Currently, right now, Last year, we were at 300 tickets for enterprise application, 209 tickets for enterprise application support. Right now, we're at 190. So we're already halfway through closing up the calendar year, and we are about to hit our number on that. As we get more engaged with departments, we are finding out more needs for the applications that we use and seeing that there's more places for IT to actually go in and help with a lot of the applications that this city is using. Project efficiency. This will give us a dedicated staff member that will be able to manage all application-related projects and initiatives within the organization. Fortunately now, a lot of the applications that come in, the departments are running with the initial part in IT. We're having to split them up, the projects up amongst myself and the IT manager. This will allow us to have one IS project manager / administrator that will be able to manage the technical aspects for every single application project for the departments. So now police doesn't have to worry about, oh, wait, who from IT can jump in and help here? They can, from the beginning of a project's lifecycle all the way to the end, we'll have an assigned IT person that can be able to walk through there and make sure nothing is missed. We have major projects coming out this year, like the ERP system as well, and we have a major shift in moving our entire GIS environment to the cloud. Having somebody who's dedicated for all the steps and moving that forward is going to be critical for all of that. Other anticipated benefits: an increase in satisfaction with IS performance, improved resolution times, improved project management, higher application support completion rate. We feel confident we can move our completion rate up to about 99% on hitting all of our response SLAs, and a dedicated resource that's focused on end user training. Strategic impact for all this, for adding this position, for all the IS strategic plan goals for 2024 to 2026. We meet all of them, and it will have a positive impact to each goal. So our first goal being a provider of reliable and progressive technology services. We would meet four of the IS capabilities that are needed to actually fulfill that goal. That's relationship management, knowledge management, project management, responsiveness, highlighting the project management piece. Really feel that that's one of the big places that we can strengthen with the application management position. Second goal of enhanced communication, collaboration, access to information for staff and citizens. We will meet all five and positively move forward those 5 IS capabilities and continue to use security best practice and solutions. We will have a positive impact on 3 of the 5 capabilities as well. So this seems to be we feel that this is a very vital role to be added to the Information Services Department. Going and looking at some of the other cities around us, counties, they tend to either have a dedicated IT person managing applications or they have a team. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have from this.
Any questions for Ashley? So Steve, the GIS contract, we're taking 171 grand off the table and just bringing it in-house, right? I mean,
That's the GIS one.
That's for the GIS.
Oh,
This is for
okay.
the
Next
applications
That's
position.
the next one? Oh,
Yeah,
I was looking at
that's
the next
the
one.
We
next
should have
one.
started with the money saver,
I was reading on that one.
but yeah, that is the next one.
Okay. I'm ahead of yourself on that. Thanks.
Always thinking ahead.
So I'll jump into the
Yeah,
one that
go
saves
for
money.
it. Yeah.
Okay, for the GIS manager position, this is actually bringing the currently contracted position in-house. Currently, this is part of our MSP contract that we have with our outsourced provider. It's important to note that one of the big reasons why we are bringing this in, when we did our strategic planning sessions, the GIS manager position was noted as kind of a weakness of the department, simply because we've had high turnover rate within that position. We've had 4 GIS managers in 4 years. So this is a key position within the department, especially when it comes to the knowledge that this person possesses. It's pretty much the linchpin. As I said in our strategic plan presentation a couple months back, is that we are trying to tie everything into our GIS systems. GIS touches every major application we have within the city, and we need to make sure that we protect the knowledge there and we don't lose that vital piece there. So as we're looking at this, the GIS manager will be responsible for the overall vision, design, management, and leadership of city's enterprise GIS program, including management of the technology, services, and geospatial data. They will perform infrastructure design and integration, service administration between GIS and other city business systems. They will also be our main contact for working with any other municipalities, including counties, for anything that's needed GIS related. Right now, when that comes in, we take the workflow, it comes to me, or it goes directly to our GIS analyst here that then has to run it up the flag to his company. So there is somewhat of a time delay when that happens. Major impacts that we see are GIS strategic planning. This will actually give us somebody who can focus on our GIS strategic planning within the city. Needs to say, takes a little bit to get some of these things done now. I know some about GIS, but I am not a GIS aficionado and expert on this, so this will actually help me out and help better steer the city's use of the GIS system. Knowledge retention, with this being such a high-level position and a position that will have a lot of knowledge, right now we're kind of hoping that we know we have good documentation, but we want to make sure that things that might not be covered in documentation don't walk out the door. Also, project efficiency. This will give us a dedicated GIS resource within the city to actually help with projects, the information services projects that we have that have GIS components as well. Strategic impact for this position, and this position will also move forward all the IT strategic goals for 2024 to 2026. It's a 4 out of 4 for the first goal, a 5 out of 5 for the first, and a 3 out of 5 for the last. And financial impact, of course, is a reduction in the IT operating budget. If you all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Any questions for Ashley on the GIS?
Not yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Chief Jason Griffin?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. From over there. Thank you. Hey, that works just fine. I'm here to talk about the FY25 Police M&O Initiative, which is very much in line with the city's strategic plan of providing a safe and secure community. The MPD is looking to add a position within the Criminal Investigations Division to serve on a regional task force with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office and Johns Creek Police Department. This task force will serve as a force multiplier for the Milton Police Department, both proactive and reactive police investigations, while increasing the number of resources available through shared technologies, investigative tools, and strengthened regional partnerships. The position will also provide career growth opportunities for our detectives by increasing their knowledge and experience levels that will be utilized in serving the citizens of Milton for years to come. Areas that the task force focuses on is drug, vice, and quality of life related complaints. They assist in the investigation of violent felony investigations. They assist in the investigation of burglary, entering auto, and theft rings that operate in the North Fulton area. And they, of course, assist in conduct any undercover and plainclothes details when called upon by any of the jurisdictions that are involved in any of these type of investigations. This request is for one full-time police detective position. The cost includes all salary, benefits, and equipment. And the FY25 financial impact all in is $178,546. Anybody have any questions about this position?
Any questions for that position?
No, Chief, thank you.
And while I'm up here, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the police, the eventual build out of the basement space at the police department. Now this is part of, no funding is required this year for this, but it is in the 7-year plan. The CIP request is for the funding of a future project at the Milton Police Department to be completed in the next couple of years. We're looking to finish the pre-designated future growth area in the basement at the police department. The project will provide opportunities to alleviate overcrowding in the main areas. Potential uses for the area include additional office space, a possible training area, physical fitness area, long-term storage, or a combination of a couple of those. Right now, we are currently in the process of analyzing the most practical and beneficial use of the unfinished space before moving forward with next steps. So, do you have any questions about that?
Questions? No. All right. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Project will also, the CIE money for impact fees will be able to potentially go towards that project as well. Next, we have Chief Ben Musa.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This M&O initiative is for Station 45 staffing. As you know, we're building Station 45. We're projected to hopefully start construction towards the end of August, September, if everything goes well. So it will be, this request is for the last quarter of 2025, for our fiscal year 2025. We wanted to account 3 months before the opening because we want to account for recruitment. We don't know what that recruitment looks like, whether we're going to end up with laterals. Laterals is fairly easy because they're experienced, they're already certified. We do a 1-week orientation, then off they go. But if we have to end up with uncertified individuals, applicants, then we're looking at least a 2.5 months academy, fire, and then subsequently EMS if they don't have their EMT. So that's the request for Station 45. Station 45 area, sorry, not Station 45. It ties in directly to the city's strategic priority for Goal 2 and Goal 4, ensure Milton's readiness and preparedness, as well as maintain a secure community. Back in 2021, if you recall, when we did our community risk analysis and our standard cover studies, we realized that sort of the center of Milton has the least coverage as far as response times and the delay in the response time. So this project, along with the construction of Station 45, will provide better services, enhanced services in that area specifically, and as well as the whole of Milton, and will help us with our ISO classification as well. We're hoping to become a Class 1 fire department, which in turn can translate to savings to our community when it comes to insurance premiums when we're at that Class 1.
Quick question on that, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Because I know we've talked about ISO 1 for probably 15 years. When do we do the reclassifications? Is it after the station's built?
Yes.
Do we immediately do it?
Yes, immediately. Once we open, we'll ask them to come out and do the assessment.
Okay.
Right now, if we do one, it's probably going to yield the same results because of that coverage. And we have reorganized the operational deployment as well as the opening of Station 42, Station 44, the staffing. So all of those things will tie in. So we want to wait till we're ready.
Okay.
The second request is for a relief factor for firefighter shift balance. That's for hiring 1 firefighter. So currently we have 3 shifts, A, B, and C. Each shift has 19 employees, firefighters per shift. 1 shift is 18. Back in 2023, you approved us to hire a training officer. So that came from the ranks. We choose not to ask to fill that position because we wanted to evaluate how that training officer is going to work for us. So we wanted to wait. So it's working out really well. Our compliance is up, our training is up, doing a great job. So now we would like to balance the shifts out to 19 across all 3 shifts. That additional firefighter accounts for call-outs, sick, but it also allows firefighters also, they have PTO for vacation because we have a staffing matrix that we go by, and we only allow so many people off per shift to make sure that we have minimum staffing and coverage for our city. That additional will help also minimize the impact of overtime trying to staff. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Parks and Recreation Director, Tom McElveen.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for the opportunity to share the proposed initiatives to further serve our community. This first initiative involves the creation of a new part-time role within the Community Outreach Division of our Parks and Rec Department. This part-time position, we're calling the Outreach Coordinator, will prove to be beneficial for the future success and continued growth of this expanding division. Our Community Outreach Manager, Emily Salerno, currently oversees a robust schedule of 12 annual community events, a recurring event series, and coordinates 5 to 7 internal employee initiatives and trainings each year. Over the past 18 months, we've experienced substantial growth with an estimated 220% increase in attendance and the addition of 3 new community events. This surge in participation is a testament to the value and impact our events have on the community. This new position ties into the strategic plan as it calls for staff to identify and offer opportunities for new recreation programs that meet our citizens' needs and expectations. With the growing interest, staff is starting to feel a demand for additional events, expanded vendor participation, and an increase in the overall event quality. The Community Outreach Manager has been extraordinary in managing and juggling these responsibilities. However, the workload has quickly become unsustainable long-term. Additionally, the community outreach manager has a critical role in collaborating with local schools, volunteer groups, and community organizations with the goal of creating consistent community connections. Unfortunately, the important focus on community connections has reduced due to the energy required to plan, coordinate, and execute our expanding community events. This new role will allow our outreach manager to refocus on linking our residents to what we have to offer, getting underserved pockets or segments of our population plugged into our programs and services. Without the new role, I feel the need to scale back the number of events and at the very least, the continued expansion of our existing community events. To conclude, the creation of this role is not just a response to our current needs, but an investment in the future of our community that ensures that we continue to provide high quality, meaningful community events and outreach initiatives that instill a sense of belonging and pride to our city. Mayor, questions?
Any questions for Tom on that? Yeah, I've seen the events go up quite a bit over the years, and I think we'll get a good return on this for sure with the community.
Okay, up next, we have the Parks and Rec Manager. For this initiative, we're requesting a new position in the Parks Division. This person's primary role is to manage and monitor the operations in the city's park grounds and park facilities or features. Since my time began here in the city of Milton, I've held the appearance and upkeep of our parks in high regard. And now that we're embarking on the continued expansion of our park and green space inventory, the need for additional headcount will ensure that our expectations, goals, and objectives continue to be met. The addition of this role will be an important piece that will tie into the continued success of 3 overarching strategic plan goals, all falling under strategic priority number 3. First is to develop and maintain active park spaces and facilities where all Milton residents can enjoy recreational opportunities. The second, to enhance existing passive parks to promote Milton's natural beauty for the enjoyment of all residents. And third, protect and enhance Milton's green spaces to maintain the natural beauty of the city for present and future generations. The Parks and Recreation Department currently operates and maintains 13 parks, 3 active sports complexes, 2 active parking facilities, and 8 passive parks. We also maintain park space and fields at 3 Fulton County schools. In the coming 18 months to 2 years, this is expected to grow even more. This is a position that was originally contemplated in the FY26 budget's 5-year projections. It's important to note that this position is budgeted and slated for a delayed start. With the new active park project currently underway, we plan to bring this position on board in July of 2025. This position will also include the purchase of a vehicle. Here's a snapshot of how the operations of parks is today. I have been serving as the lead on all park maintenance and operations. Current workload includes juggling administrative tasks, preparing scopes of work, requesting quotes and bids, managing vendors, addressing emergency or routine repairs, performing safety inspections, and most importantly, the management of our parks and maintenance contractors. With the addition of the new park and the potential for additional green spaces opening to our citizens, this can lead to several challenges, including delayed response due to limited staff availability, recreation staff's redirection of focus away from their primary objectives, which is to provide quality recreation programming to our residents, a focus on urgent issues instead of proactive maintenance and upkeep, important park maintenance tasks being missed due to lack of supervision over parks and facilities, and finally, consistency and quality control issues when relying solely on the contractors to perform routine and unique maintenance tasks. Proceeding with the hiring of a parks manager will provide a beneficial long-term solution to the Parks and Recreation Department's upcoming challenges. This role will come with specialized skills, knowledge, and certifications related to parks maintenance that we'll be looking for in our candidates. Some of them include a certified Parks and Recreation professional certification, certified pool operator or aquatics facility operator, certified playground safety inspector certification, specialties in athletic field, turf grass care, and baseball field maintenance, synthetic turf field maintenance and repair, and the completion of the Georgia Recreation and Parks Maintenance Management School. The addition of this role will allow the city department to do the following: provide quicker response and solutions for preventative and corrective work, implement more safety protocols, conduct more routine inspections, and address any safety hazards promptly to ensure well-being of park visitors. This proactive approach will will approach to proactively attack risk management that can help prevent accidents and liability concerns, provide better consistency and quality control with more oversight of the city's maintenance contractors, shift or redirect priorities of the recreation staff to focus on their respective roles and responsibilities, and finally, put a plan in place to provide more stable continuity on park services in the event that Parks and Rec Director or other members of staff are unavailable for short or long-term periods. Establishing an in-house parks manager position signifies a decision to ensure the long-term success and stability of the department. Additionally, it will allow staff to prepare for the future demands of the city as our programmed active and passive parks continue to expand. Questions?
Is the salary correct on that? Because I don't understand the money.
It's just for 1 quarter because
One quarter.
we're not
Last year it's three.
going to proceed to hire till July.
That makes sense.
I was doing the same thing. I was like, wait, that doesn't. Okay.
We're getting a deal.
Thanks, Tom. You know, I remember, Tom, when you came, it was a year or two ago. It was the passive park. I think where Jen is, the role that Jen's in, that you gave us, and you've done a tremendous job with that. I mean, I think the community just loves everything that she's doing with all the youth and everything. So good stuff.
Yeah, it's a nice integration. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this final initiative is an enhancement that staff believes will be well received by the community, the renovation of the Bethwell Community Center. This longtime community center has historically been a cornerstone for our recreation programs and a popular venue for community rentals. Since the addition of the Milton City Park and Preserves Community Center space, the utilization of Bethwell, especially programmatically, has decreased. This space has served our community well for many years. However, to continue to provide a welcoming and functional space for all, staff is recommending updates to the building. The proposed renovation will include new paint, bathroom upgrades, new flooring, and adding walls to create a dedicated kitchenette space. I've got some current pictures here on the screen for your reference. All these updates are intended to make the space more in line with our standards that we have at our other recreational spaces in Milton. The largest changes take place in the kitchen. By adding walls to make the kitchenette its own space will enhance the functionality and create more versatile usage options for events and recreation programs. This initiative ties in with strategic plan under priority number 3, goal 1, to develop and maintain active park spaces and facilities where all Milton residents can enjoy recreational opportunities. The estimated cost for this renovation is $78,000. This investment in the facility will give us a more vibrant and functional community center that meets the needs of our residents for years to come. Questions?
Questions for Tom on that?
What a salesman.
Thanks, Tom. I guess, since it's been, I guess we used it as a fire station, a while ago, so we probably don't know. You do anticipate using it more, I'm assuming, renting it out, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah. With the Milton City Park and Preserve building there, the comparison's it's not even close, right? Everyone wants to go over there. So if we can spruce this up, I know like right now our youth dance program still uses Bethwell Community Center. And I can only imagine with some of these upgrades and updates to the building, it's going to drive registration and help with rentals too.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
Next, we have Public Works Director Sarah Leaders.
Another one?
But that was under Tom.
Oh, the Chadwick House?
I was expecting another Tom too.
Huh?
Yeah, so am I. I'm struggling with a number of them.
All right, let's see. All right, good evening. So this is a follow-up to a project that I introduced at the June work session about the McConnell Chadwick House and the donation that we're looking to move forward with for this property. This initiative really aligns with the strategic priority to acquire, manage, develop public land and resources to support Milton's high quality of life. So I'll run through a few of the slides that I shared in June and then give some updates on the cost estimate for this initiative. So the property has some historic significance. It's got unique architectural elements and it's prominently located on the entryway to Milton from Cherokee County. This map shows the house location. The donation letter of intent was approved in September of 2023. Since that time, we've been underway with the due diligence looking at this property. Just wanted to note that we haven't formally accepted the donation. There will be a donation agreement before you all if you do elect to move forward with this property. So since that letter of intent was approved, we have done some site visits to the property with the Milton Historical Society as well as the current property owner. And then we've engaged legal to help us with some land acquisition services, including drafting what that donation agreement will look like. We've done a survey of the properties, an environmental assessment, and we're wrapping up an assessment for preservation, looking at cost and the measures that would be needed to preserve the exterior of this building. And our facilities manager, David Bergmeyer, has been coordinating on that, so I have him here to support any questions that may come up that I may not be able to answer related to that assessment. All right, next slide. So this is a survey that was done of the property as well as a proposed division for the area surrounding the historic house. So the historic house sits here. If you can see the cursor moving on the screen, and the yellow highlight is the parcel that we're proposing could be created to separate this from the larger 5-acre parcel, so that it would be about 1.85 acres shown in yellow with the remainder 3 acres. Here are some of the exterior conditions. These show the architectural features as well as some of the deterioration and issues that we're facing with this property, including water intrusion into the interior. And like I mentioned, as part of the due diligence, we've started a structural assessment as well as cost estimation for doing some preservation efforts to the exterior of this house and to address some of these issues that have been noted. And the initiative that we're presenting tonight is for proposed, again, preservation of the exterior of the structure. We have it proposed for fiscal 25 as $220,000. We are waiting on more detailed funding estimates, but we have some very preliminary numbers that help us look at what phasing would fit under this $220,000. I can highlight a couple of those areas in just a minute as we get to the end of the presentation. To note, this is mainly to secure the structure, to maintain the exterior integrity of the structure and limit further deterioration. It's going to stop all the areas where water is getting into the building right now. That's the primary component of deterioration is weather. So looking at getting those addressed through this preservation. Did want to note we're not tackling the inside of this house at this point. It does have a lot of issues interior. That could be a future project, a future external funding source, possibly grant, working with the Milton Historical Society, community engagement. Is there an interest to use this structure? Do we want it to, I mean, it would serve a very prominent feature from the roadway and the exterior, but what does the community support as far as the interior and the future use? So that's planned a few years out. We did put some money in the capital plan to possibly support some other funding sources. So these are a couple notes from the structural assessment. That piece is done. We're just waiting on the final estimates. Again, these are still preliminary estimates, but based on what the structural assessment came back with as far as how to size the different materials that would be used in this effort. Did want to point out a few notes from this assessment, including the preservation and life safety techniques that are uncommon to current building practices will be required, as well as the sequence of reconstruction, just to ensure we're still keeping this in compliance with its historic significance. And it was also noted that the purpose of the structural assessment is limited to the exterior elements and conditions, limited to structural design integrity that respects the original design of the building. This is one of the graphics that came out of that assessment. The left, that's the floor plan of the house. So we have the main area A and kind of the teal, the gray is an addition. The front porch is D, and then we have another porch and another exterior area. So for each of those, the structural engineer identified things to do within those areas and the size of materials to use. So it gave us that tool list of what we would need to estimate. We wouldn't be looking to do all this initially with that 220,000, but we do have budgetary numbers that we believe would cover reframing the roofs, repairing the siding, foundation repairs, the metal roof, possibly the well house, reshingling that, and addressing the chimney. The future initiative would be for possibly the window restoration, finding some that fit with that same historic look of the house, as well as exterior paint. Those could be future, but if the estimates and the bidding allows, we could work probably the painting into the initial proposal. So kind of the options and next steps on this property and this initiative, we have held the donation on hold. We wanted to get through this piece to be able to present to council what some of the cost would look like if we accepted it and if we preserved it in a way that respected the original construction. So we do have that donation on hold right now, and we're prepared to move ahead with presenting that for your consideration. The property owner is still willing to follow that letter of intent that was previously done for the donation. So we could accept the donation and put this initial capital funding to start the preservation, with us finalizing the phasing and the funding associated with that. We could accept the donation without the capital funding. There's some limited things we can do with M&O funding, including fencing it, just ensuring that it's a safe area. If we do take ownership of it, we would at least need some minimal M&O funding to mitigate those risks. We do have the option also to not accept the donation now that you know some of the preliminary costs associated with this property. So our next steps are, we'll come back to you one more time with some more details on the funding. But for now, this initial critical phase is estimated at $220,000. And we can also come back before you with that donation agreement. So.
Quick question. I know when we were originally talking about this, there was a lot of talk about grant money. That I think is probably something we need to prioritize first for sure to see. 'Cause I hate to spend money on X, Y, and Z if the grant money will only spend money on that. So I'd like to kind of go after that first for sure.
Well, the 200 is just water abatement.
Right.
I mean, and we're not getting anywhere close to renovation and restoration and preservation. So it's very problematic.
That's the 200 out in 29, right?
The 229 would be for more of that interior. It'd be kind of more matching money towards a grant for some of that more interior type of work. The money in 25 is the water abatement, basically. It's just getting the structure secure. And
So how many square feet is it?
Yeah, I couldn't see that on the,
On that, yeah.
yeah, you can't read it. It's too
It
small.
looks small.
zoom in here. It does have a upper floor.
16.
Oh, that's not.
Is
very
that
clear.
16 or 15 maybe?
David, do
That's
you happen
definitely a
to
lot.
have those
Yeah.
numbers?
It's not very big.
And it sits at the front of the property, right? How many acres?
1 acre.
Right off the
A
street.
little over an acre, right?
2,300 square feet.
Okay, so it's multi-level, so it's pretty small. So it's not like it's a place that is going to have a lot of function. You know, I'm huge into preserving, but
With the 200,000, if we're just trying to just stop the water, if that's the number one priority, is that 200 grand just for the water? I mean,
So it is rebuilding the roof trusses,
Okay.
restabilizing the walls. So while we could just put material up to stop it, it's trying to make sure anything we put on it is going to be able to be used. It's not just throwaway material, that it
You're
is
almost
going to.
rebuilding part of the house.
I just want to go after some grant money first before we spend.
We need to know what's out there. Is Mr. Chadwick expecting an answer anytime soon?
We have, we've been sharing that we wanted to get the structural assessment done just so we had an idea of cost. And we've been keeping him updated on our progress.
I wonder if he has any insights as to where we might be able to find a pot of money to help with this. I mean, I think it would be wonderful to have. We don't have many historic structures in the area. It's 1838 or something, which that predates just about everything in town. But, by the time this is done, it's $1 million.
Easily.
Yeah.
And we need it to be somebody else's $1 million. So to your point, we got to go. find some money.
What does the Historical Society look for out of this? I mean, do they want to use it as, or are they just looking to preserve the look of the outside of the building? Or do they want to turn it into something?
Their initial vision in just discussing with them was they love the idea of the interior being able to be used. Well, staff's perspective was let's at least get, I mean, the exterior looks good and it's, sits on nearly 2 acres and could be an entryway feature into the city. That was more staff's direction, but they did have some aspirations of future usage, but it's not something we didn't do any assessments of the interior because it is further deteriorated than the outside.
It's in bad shape. It's just flat out in bad shape. So the Milton Historical Society, this would be a big project for them because it's all volunteer and on a as can do basis. So we would get into further deterioration in the process of trying to get the work done.
All right, I hate to turn it down because Mr. Chadwick is giving us, right?
Right.
Instead of selling it, but to your point, this could end up being a huge,
Very expensive
huge
free
expense. I know it's something we're not looking to do, immediately, and this is more of a longer term type of play. So maybe the time we can vote on this, can we at least get some information on some grants that's out there? Because that's what we were told from the beginning.
We'll keep looking to see if there's any restoration grants that we could do, at least for the outside. The concern, I believe, and I correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're hitting the point of where he's prepared to turn that over to us, and we don't want to take it without eyes wide open as if we don't get that money, what that could cost.
Oh, that's
But
fair.
it is on the registry of historic sites, right?
I know it was on the places of peril, and it has been submitted to get on the formal historic registry, but it was identified as a potential eligible property. So it went through the first round of paperwork to be considered on that registry.
The Historical Society is taking the lead on that piece.
They have, yes.
It's just hard for me to see what the usage would be rather than it's cool to have.
It's not really large enough to do
Yeah.
functions at or something.
Right.
That you could rent or,
I think their aspirational thing, like a decade from now or however long, was more of a visitor center.
Yeah,
How far does it sit back from the road?
Pretty close.
It's close to it.
Close.
And so this would come with the
God, it looks like it's
1.85
almost on the
acres.
street.
I mean, I'd almost like to privatize it if somebody would restore it appropriately.
That is the 5-foot setback.
Was it fair, council, for them to come back with maybe some grant options and maybe some other pricing, not to spend so much money on the first year, just to get it to stop deteriorating? And maybe talk to Mr. Chadwick's, give us some options maybe? Is that fair enough?
And we talked about, originally we were using the term mothballing. Is there a
What was the term? What'd you say?
mothballing? Is there something we could do in the interim to stop further damage that won't cost that same amount?
There probably is just some minimal
Like blue
improvements.
tarps.
We didn't know if that would,
Doing the same thing. That's awesome.
that would escalate beyond a capital project versus, again, just, like I said, I mean, the option is we could do just some minimal maintenance and operation type things and just repair as best we can, knowing that it's not addressing the structural issues. That was our big concern. And I mean, we'll get the full report to know the integrity of it. But, you know, it seemed like it was more for if we were going to put money in it to go ahead and do the walls and the roof right with the right materials. So that was more what it was focused on.
Any other questions for Sarah?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, thanks.
That wraps up tonight's presentation of staff's new initiatives. We'll be before you next week to discuss the expenditures for the 5-year on the operating side and the 7-year on the capital side. And that'll be the last piece of all the different components. And then we'll put that all together and you'll see that on August 12th. But we will start the millage rate conversations on August 5th. So if anyone has any feedback on things they've seen that they would like included or not included, just let us know so we can kind of shape that up in time for those August meetings. We appreciate your feedback.
Thanks, Bernadette.
Thank you very much.
Any comment on that, Tammy? No.
There are none, sir.
Okay, we will now adjourn into executive session to discuss personnel, land acquisition, and litigation. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, a motion from Councilor Jacobus and a second from Councilor Verhoff. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?